Well, greetings, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number 134. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out past episodes, including a few I'm going to review with you in a moment. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments, and I'm thrilled that you're with us today. What is a lightbulb moment? Well, it's a moment of sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. And remember, you can't start a fire without a spark. So sometimes a light bulb moment can be the beginning of a new era for you. And certainly our guest today has a light bulb moment of hers that we're going to unpack. At Qnity here, we're here to help make what's complicated, overwhelming, and confusing to a clearer path towards prosperity, whatever that looks like for you. Remember to prosper, manage your ATM, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And thank you for spending your precious time with us today, whether you're listening to us live or you're watching the recording of this or listening to the podcast. Thanks for being with us. We love hearing from you. Submit a light bulb moment of your own on our website, or feel free to reach out to me directly, put something in the chat. And today we have a special guest. We have Megan Murray of Ulta Beauty, and who's also a fellow member of the Beauty Changes Lives board. Can't wait to get to the mic with Megan in a little bit here. Our last guest was Tony Gordon. It was 2 weeks ago. We took last week off because of the 2 to 10 project. Then couple episodes, or an episode prior to that, was Garrison Neal. Great episode, as well as Kelly Eilers. And then finally, Roderick Samuels. So we've had a lot of great episodes. So check them out. Most of you are listening to this not live, but actually on recording. So feel free to check out these other episodes, as well as an episode that I had as it related to transition planning. Also, check out Erin's Money 02 podcast. She's got several recent episodes, very interesting and intriguing guests. Also, last call for a execution workshop coming up in Minnesota on November 13th and 14th. We have a great program that I think this is the third time we've done this year, and every time everybody gets great takeaways. So it's not too late to join us for that. My light bulb moment this week, I think, really has to do with the 2 to 10 Leadership Conference, our 13th year, which we wrapped up last Tuesday, actually last Wednesday, because we had a local tour of some Atlanta-based salons. And it was a great 2 to 10. It was our 13th anniversary. We had wonderful collaboration, our conversation starters. Remember, 2 to 10 is primarily driven by peer-related content. And we have conversation starters that really stimulate new ideas, practices, et cetera. And I went from room to room, and I was super impressed by this year's conversation starters and the wide range of topics that were covered. And I could just see the light bulb moments going off throughout the entire 2 days. And our team did a great job, with this conference. And I also want to thank our sponsors, and especially thank those that attended. We also had a workshop on the Sunday before 2 to 10. It was an exit workshop on succession planning. We had a great turnout for that, and I got to lead that workshop. We had about 40 people, and it really was for those that are looking at possibly going from their business, literally selling their business, but also the majority of the room was individuals, owners, current owners and future owners, being proactive on what their career looks like. And in many cases, it's an owner just wanting some strategies, plans, et cetera, to let go. So that was a thrill to do it. So anyway, it was a great Atlanta 3 days, and probably a lot more that I could say about that, but I want to get to our guest pretty quick here. So I'm going to move on. And so with this, I would like to invite to the mic and invite to the camera Megan Murray. Good morning, Megan. How are you?
Hi, Tom. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Your background was posted, your title and your background was posted on the invite, but let me just summarize that just for a moment. So you are Senior Director of Field Operations at Ulta Beauty. You're a multi-unit management professional, have worked with some of the largest and most innovative retail organizations, including Target and JCPenney. And you have a 15-year executive career trajectory, building and managing multi-million-dollar enterprise-wide programs with significant impact on tactical expansion, salon, store level, and national sales improvement, P&L management, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the next part that I love, and that is Megan has a love for the beauty industry and is known for infusing her work with energy, passion, and competitive. I'm going to come to the competitive in a little bit, competitive edge. As I mentioned, you did work at JCPenney and Target, and you have a master's in marketing, a BA in communications from the University of Alabama, where you played volleyball.
Roll Tide.
And we find you down in Florida. And I was not lost on me that I saw some trick or treat pictures yesterday with your adorable children and your husband. So did you have a good Halloween?
We did. We had a great Halloween. You know, I feel a little bad sometimes when I post the pictures of us having Halloween in Florida, because it seems like all my friends up north were posting pictures and lots of coats, and even some snow happened yesterday. But yes, we had a great time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being my guest. I've been wanting to get you as a guest for a long time, and we've gotten to know each other through the Beauty Changes Lives board. And I certainly have seen your energy and passion, and, you know, you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves, and, you know, and you were a big part of the gala this year, pulling it off with the team. And I've been super impressed with your involvement on the board, and it's been a delight to get to know you. And finally, we get a chance to have you as a guest on Lightbulb Moments.
I'm excited about it. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, being a part of Beauty Changes Lives and getting to know people like you and the other board members has definitely been a blessing for sure the last year and a half.
So you have a big job, and, you know, a lot of those that are watching this live or listening to or watching the YouTube recording or the podcast, you know, they're salon owners and managers, and maybe they have a head count of 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, but you have 7,000 hairstylists report to you. Is that correct? I'm sorry, it's a dotted line, right?
Yeah, you corrected yourself before I could correct you. Yes, I've got a team of 100-ish that support across the country, and they support our 7,000 hairstylists. We also have skin therapists and makeup artists, and our arch experts in our benefit boutique are also licensed estheticians.
Now, I have some familiarity with the Ulta model because I did a project for Ulta. It was been some time. I was actually down at the Chicago area headquarters, and, you know, got to know the executive team at the time and all of that. So I am somewhat familiar, but many are not familiar with the Ulta model, and maybe just see Ulta as a big box retailer. But Ulta is a salon company with licensed professionals, over 7,000 licensed professionals. So I'm going to ask you a very direct question, okay? And so I remember back before I, you know, set foot into an Ulta, I had this sort of mindset that it was sort of a phantom salon, and I'm sure that could create a strong reaction to you. But how would you respond to those that say Ulta is really a big box retailer, and, oh, by the way, they have salons and they're doing it? Yeah. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to hear it's not the first time that it's been asked. I would respond with, well, a stat that you just brought up. We have 7,000 hairstylists across the country. So obviously it's not a phantom salon, and we've got individuals who have built their livelihood, their careers with us, anywhere from right out of school to 20 plus years with us, and even have a hairstylist last year that did over $300,000 behind the chair with us. So definitely not a phantom salon. And we pride ourselves on being, yes, we are a retailer, but we are all things beauty. This is not to be too corporate, but one of our sayings, all things beauty, all in one place, that we used to say back in the day. And truly that's what it is. We like to tell our hairstylists that you've got the largest waiting room in the industry right here in our footprint. And beauty enthusiasts are walking through the door. You don't have to go very far to find somebody that loves beauty.
So part of your recruiting strategy is that you have the largest waiting room. Unpack that a little bit more. What do you mean by that, the largest waiting room?
Well, you gotta think, right? Like people who come into an Ulta Beauty, they're coming because they are already interested in some form of beauty. And so for our hairstylist that maybe had a cancellation or didn't have anybody on the books for the day, for them to be able to find somebody that's interested in a service is much easier than I would say anywhere else in the industry. So when we say the largest waiting room, that's what we mean. It's there's this opportunity to just capitalize on the people that are stepping foot in the door, to help our stylists build their books too.
So in a sense, and I'll use this term, and I'm sure that you wouldn't use it at Ulta, but you know what I mean. There's the front and the back of the house. And so a big part of your model has to be the cohesiveness between the front of the house and the back of the house. Back of the house being the salon services, front of the house would be retail and some of the other areas that are retail that might have counters, et cetera. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, here we say front of the house, back of the house, and quite literally too. If you've been in an Ulta, many of our locations have the salon towards the back of the building. We have newer versions where it's right smack in the middle, or in different areas, but majority of them have it in the back of the building. But when you talk about the unity between the two, front of the house, back of the house, using your terms, not our terms, but it's imperative is that it's a family and it's a community and it's not the salon and then everybody else, that they're really working together and they understand what everyone's going after. And I'll tell you what the secret sauce can be is when we've got an associate on the floor who we'll just call them a selling associate, right? Like a beauty advisor on the floor who knows that one of our stylists had a cancellation for 3 o'clock. And so somebody's looking at different hair products and they say, hey, you want to go get a consultation with stylist, Susie Q, and potentially help them also build their book. And then like vice versa, our salon guest is our best guest. So somebody who's coming in every 6, 8, 10 weeks to get their hair done, they're shopping, they're spending quite a bit of money on retail. And so it's a secret sauce to have that unity and that camaraderie, amongst everybody in the store.
I know one of the areas that you're very involved with is the education team. And I think you used the number of somewhere along the lines of maybe 100 different members of the educate. Talk about your education.
Yeah, so my direct peer, Anna, she leads our education team, and we've got just under 100 educators across the country who I believe last year alone did or this year they'll do like 5,000 classes, like a crazy number of classes that they're continuing to enhance and bring excitement into our education. Our stylists get paid to go to education. They're not paying for it. We pay them while they're there. And we want them to be the best of the best. We want them to continue to feel that we're pouring into them. And our education is created by a wonderful team at our office who has been in the industry for a very long time. And they use our resources like our pro team. We launched an Ulta Beauty pro team, I would say 5 years ago, where different leaders in the industry, with that are brand affiliates, like a Sonia Dove and a Danielle Kiesling, that we tap into them too to tell us like, hey, here's what our education is. What feedback do you have, and what would you do different? And we want to make sure that we're staying top of the top when it comes to education. And it's definitely one of the benefits that we provide.
So you're always hiring like everybody is. And I think you said last month you hired about 100 people. Is that right? And maybe in a quarter, about 400 people. How are you finding people?
Oh, I would say the biggest place is word of mouth. And when you get somebody who heard about us from another hairstylist, and then they join, and then they tell their friends, and then they join. That is our number one. Our team also goes out and talks to different individuals, whether it's at beauty shows or just a little bit more organic, at schools. If they're meeting, I'm not even kidding, Tom, like just meeting somebody at a restaurant that has great hair and talking to them about where they got their hair done and getting a name and just telling them what we have to offer. There's not one secret sauce on where we're finding people. Our team has done a really nice job of communicating what we have to offer. So whether that's in our partners with Modern Salon or Salon Evo, or like in the pubs, to really support us, and just sharing what benefits we offer, and then the benefits really speak for themselves, and that's what's getting us individuals to come on board. But I'll tell you, it's getting them to come on board and then helping them make money quickly so that we retain them. I think that's probably an opportunity across the industry too, is we all want to keep them in our salons, right? Like any salon owner or larger, chain salon, like they want to keep their people here, but we also want to keep them in the industry. So it's just getting them in, helping them be successful so that they're making lucrative careers, and they love going to their salon every day.
You've got you definitely have a lot of advantages. One example is in benefits. Can you just kind of an overview of the type of benefits you provide members of your stylist team?
Yeah. So, in the very literal sense, right? Like we offer the typical dental, medical for full-time associates, 401k, we don't talk enough about it. And then additionally, we offer, like a performance bonus that if you come on board and how much volume you bring with you, those first 13 weeks of you starting will give you a bonus right at the beginning. So that's definitely a benefit. I talked about education being a benefit, which I would say is our top benefit. And then there's the others, that it's the largest waiting room. Like I said, right? When you have a call off, you can easily fill that time in your business. We provide everything that our stylists need from a tool perspective, from a product perspective. So when you add it all up, it definitely adds up to quite a bit of volume.
We had a brief discussion in terms of the migratory nature of the industry, and but we also talked about the your comp plan a little bit, and I want to get to that in a moment. But back to the benefits for a moment. How many hours are required for someone to be eligible for benefits?
It is full times at 35 hours.
35. And you're finding numbers very similar to our previous compensation studies in terms of hours worked. Is it fair to say that the average licensed stylist is working maybe 24 to 28 hours in Ulta? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I don't have the specific data, but I would bet my last dollar that it would be around 25 hours.
And your compensation plan. So you mentioned that it can go up to 70%. And talk about just your whatever you're comfortable sharing with your compensation.
Yeah, it's out there. Listen, we offer anywhere between we start at 42% and we go up to 70% commission. So, and it ranges based on, what's really cool about it is we have 3 titles: stylist, master, and elite. And the titles are based on the education. Okay. The titles are not based on volume. They're based on education. And so when it comes to earning potential, the commission rate is the same for everybody because it's based on how much volume you bring in that week. So if you're bringing in $0 to $999, you're at that 42% commission. If you're bringing in $3,000 that week, $3,001, you're at that 70% commission. And that's before tips. So, our individuals who are we've got this year we'll have around 700 stylists. I would guess we're on track to hit 700 stylists. That'll bring in over $100,000. And that's
In
before tips.
gross revenue or W-2?
Gross. That's
Okay.
that's a gross number. They'll hit gross at least 100K, but then with tips.
So, so doing a little math here, you could make some significant money here. And so I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm going to ask you this question. And so how would you reply to those that say cosmetology has poverty level earnings? What is your first reaction to that?
Oh, my first reaction is probably an inappropriate reaction, Tom. I'll be honest. So I'm gonna try to be appropriate, but I it's just not factual.
So even
It's not the truth,
yeah,
you
and
know?
from somebody that zoomed out and maybe somebody that's no familiar with Ulta, they're going to make some assumptions that it's going to feel, it's a chain and it's going to attract a certain level of people. It's going to be a lower price point. And, when I'm doing the math, it sounds to me like, we did a study of, 1 to 10 locations, and we're undertaking a chain study, which we're all aware of here. But, in an Ulta, there's some significant W-2 earners there. And it doesn't sound like they're the outliers, because if you have this kind of volume and that type of compensation plan, you could make a lot of money there. So, and have education and benefits. So it's very attractive. And I want to really keep this centered on, this is not about, those listening in today trying to compete with Ulta. This is really about attracting people into the industry,
Absolutely.
And, when I heard some of these numbers yesterday, like someone bringing in over 300,000, I'm like, wow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now, but there's pain points. We all have pain points, and it's a rich compensation. It can be a very rich compensation plan, great education, world-class benefits, but human capital is a challenge. And if you're bringing in 100 people in a month, you're going to have some attrition. So what are your biggest pain points? It sounds like it's more keeping members of the team. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say it goes twofold. The past couple of years we talked a lot about, coming out of the pandemic, around recruiting the right stylist, that it's the right fit for Ulta Beauty, and we talked a lot about networking and recruiting, and we really switched the pendulum to, yes, we need to continue to network and recruit, right? It grows anyone's business to add more stylists. However, there's been this shift in, we really need to retain, and like I said earlier, retain to Ulta Beauty, but also just retain to the industry. And we started seeing, within the first year of a stylist joining, like if we could get them to that year mark, that 2-year mark, like they were continuing to make more money, they were finding their groove. But it's the quick turnover, Tom, I would say, is the biggest opportunity, is people who join, and they give it like a short chance and then move on to the next. And I even hope that they move on to the next salon anywhere else. But what we're also finding is they're moving on to the next total career change. And so we are laser focused on figuring out, how do we help a stylist, no matter where they are in their career, right? Like right out of beauty school, 4 years in, 5 years in, sold their salon, and they want to come work. I'm talking the full swing, right? How do we help them sooner make money and just feel part of that unity and that camaraderie? Like, off the bat quicker so that they give the industry more of a chance.
Company like Ulta, which is major company, and you have a face to the brand now, Nick. And I think that's really important, is, so you're not reporting to fictitious, people you don't know or see. So having a face to the brand. I know in the past you had like an Adam Broderick and a Rodney Cutler and whatever. Nick's been there quite some time. And how important is it, do you think, to have a face like that with the brand?
What's pretty incredible, and Tom, I don't know if you know this, actually knew Nick at Penny's. He came to Ulta Beauty, and he brought me on board at Ulta. So, like, speaking from experience, the man personally has changed my life. And so, speaking to our stylist, it's pretty incredible to have somebody that's leading all of Ulta Beauty operations, all of it. Not like salon operations, but retail operations too. He's leading all operations, started as a hairdresser, and he truly understands what our entire team is going through. And I think it's like a unicorn. I think he's a unicorn on having somebody that is an SVP of Ulta Beauty operations, that has his own brand, has, was behind the chair for so long. He's a brand representative for Matrix. I mean, he's done it all. And you should see him when he walks into our stores. Like, our stylists, they just light up and they want to pick his brain, but on the vice versa, he picks their brain to make sure that he's still in touch with what's happening in the box and in the salon. So it's pretty fantastic, Tom, to be honest.
So I wasn't aware that he leads the front of the house team too. Is that right? Yeah. And is that new with him? Because previously, like a Rodney Cutler or whatever, there was really more back of the house, correct?
Right. So when Nick came on board, he came to Ulta as the creative director, and then moved up to VP of salon operations, and then moved up from there. When he became an SVP, they combined his role with retail and salon operations. So it's kind of he's been with Ulta Beauty now, I would say, a little over 6 years, and every year his growth rate has expanded.
I'm going to get to why Megan in a moment, but there's something you said. I'm having a little bit of a delayed reaction to something. And this is, I'm sort of going out of sequence here, but I'm going back to something you said. I just made this mental note from about 5 minutes ago in terms of your compensation. And what you said, so pardon me if I zigzag here a little bit, the level of the stylists, whether it's stylist, master, or elite, has nothing to do with sales volume. It's all about education. That's unique, isn't it?
You know what we found? So I'll be real honest, this now probably 5 years ago, before we made this shift around 5 years ago, where the title was based on volume. But when you get a new title, your prices increase. And it was like that before. And so when you're speaking to a guest, like, we really went through this shift of having transparent pricing, so that our guest knows, like, if you're one of these 3 titles, what the price is going to be. And what we were finding was that someone would get promoted and they would go to have a conversation with their guest, and they're like, oh, okay, so why are your prices more? And the answer is like, well, I did a lot of volume behind the chair. Where now, for a guest, it makes sense, right? Why are your prices more now? I am more educated than I was before. And so that's when we really made that shift.
It does affect their compensation, though, because that means a higher price point, which makes it easier. So I get it. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about Megan here a little bit, and why Megan, because this is a big job. And why Megan? And I think you went through maybe your strength finder. So let's unpack that a little bit and understand. Then ultimately, as we get towards the end here, I want to talk about a big light bulb moment in your career, which is really super inspiring. So tell us about why Megan.
Oh, that's funny that I know we were talking about strength finders. Listen, I there's a couple of things I pride myself on. One is what you see is what you get, and I 99.9% of the time am a positive, happy person. So, which I think is important as anyone that's wherever they are in their career, to have a positive outlook. Like it just makes work more fun. It makes life more fun to just think of things half full. So I would say that is definitely a strength. And then you talked about it at the beginning, but I pride myself on on having a competitive edge and being competitive. And it came from when I was little. I mean, I think you mentioned I played, or I don't know if you did, I played volleyball in college. I grew up with two older brothers who were athletes, a dad that played professional soccer. And it was just like ingrained in me to want to win, but have fun while doing it and bringing people along for the journey. I think the third thing that anytime I'm interviewing anybody and they're like, there's the typical questions people ask when you're doing an interview, right? Like, what does it take to be successful at Ulta Beauty? Or how did you get where you are today? And my answers are always pretty similar, where it's all about building relationships. And so keeping that competitive edge in check, where it's not like competing against my peers or against my coworkers anyway. It's like we're on this journey together, but building relationships, having some fun, and then like I'm in a business. I'm driving business, so I need to drive sales and I need to win in order for the company to be successful. So I think that's probably my secret sauce.
You mentioned the word woo too.
Yes. So speaking of strength finders, and many people have gone through strength finders at some point in their journey or career. If not, there's a book, there's a quick overview. It may even be free now online, but my top strengths are positive, competitive, and woo, which is interesting because woo is like, I don't like making people mad. Like I want everyone around me to be happy. And so that one's interesting because back in the day, I would say I was a people pleaser. I wanted to keep the kumbaya in the office or in my life. Whereas I've advanced in my career, I've had to learn how to be direct and be okay with a little bit of, people being uncomfortable, but it goes back to the positive and the building relationships. So you can be more direct when you're already those two things.
High EQ. Why don't we talk about a high EQ for what does that mean to you? High emotional intelligence, essentially.
Yeah. Any business owner or IQ is needed, right? It's needed. You need to have intelligence in order to lead any sort of business. But it's the EQ that I think relates to building relationships and reading other people and understanding where other people are. And I think it's even more important than having a high IQ is just being self-aware, but also having the ability to pulse check everyone else. And when you need to pivot based on where everybody else is and in whatever the conversation might be about or what have you. But that's what I would say about IQ and EQ.
With so many competing priorities in a large team, where do you spend your time? And literally where you spend your time? And then like, what is a typical, and you can say, oh, there's no typical, but what to the best that you can break it down, whether it's a week, a month, a quarter, give me an idea how you spend your time. And I think you mentioned it's in 3 different environments. It's either in your office, which is in Florida, at the corporate headquarters in Bolingbrook, Illinois, and in the field, right? I mean, those are your 3 places where you work. But how does that break down from you? And how do you make decisions on where you work and how you spend your time and certain rituals you might have?
Oh, I would say planning and prioritizing is like the key to success. And I live and breathe by my Outlook calendar. I even send my husband Outlook invites for things, even for the children. So, and I would say the 4th thing to that is being a mom of 2, and spending time with my kids. So I live and breathe by planning and prioritizing. I would say being intentional too about priorities. And this is something I'm continuously working on is not letting the calendar like create my life, that I create the calendar so that my life is a little bit more purposeful. Because if I just let it go and let the meetings come on and I wasn't, scheduling out travel further in advance, or, work would still happen. It would still be filled. It would just not be filled with intent. And so I go to our corporate office once a month. I think it is very imperative to the success of my role, and my team plays this middle ground where we're a part of strategy, but we're also part of execution. And so I need to have a pulse check with my corporate partners. And then I need to be in stores. I mean, if I sit at this desk all day long and I try to make decisions, I'm not making them the right way, right? I need to hear from the people in the stores, and in our salons. And in order to get their feedback, in order to make any actual impactful change. So I would say just planning it ahead of time. And then anytime I can do both. So like I can go to the corporate office, but then if I have a morning that's not booked yet, visit a couple of stores in Chicago, or, if we're going to PBA, that I can visit stores while we're at PBA, or fly really quickly. I'm flying to El Paso to visit some stores. So it's just being intentional and planning it far in advance so that I can control it and somebody else doesn't control it.
So when you and I were having a prep call yesterday, we'll kind of get towards close, and it was like, we were just wrapping up and you gave me the nugget of all nuggets, and a light bulb moment in your career. Let's end with that. Okay. Tell us about a career light bulb moment. It was very inspiring.
Well, in this, I had a moment where I talked about, and it fits with talking about competitive and positive, right? And being those 2 things, where I started my career at Target Corporation as I finished college, and I thought I was going to do something totally different. I met somebody in retail and they were like, just try it out, try out retail. Let's see if you like it. And I fell in love, and I started to work my way up. And how Target works is you would interview for a promotion. And I knew I wanted to run my own store. I was right out of school and I was in their management program. And this was the next step to get to do that. This was the next pay grade that got you to run your own store. And I did all these interviews for it, and I was turned down, to be honest with you. And it was a little gut wrenching. I thought I was prepared. I thought, I knew all my numbers. I knew everything to talk about, and I was turned down. And I didn't get a ton of feedback, I'll be honest, but I just self-reflected, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show them. Then I think that's the competitive edge. I'm like, I'm going to pour into my store. I'm going to make sure that I've got the best numbers in the district. And it was 8 or 9 days later, and the man that made the decision not to promote me at the time visited my store. And if I would have been like a negative Nelly and ticked off and, didn't go out, say, I'm going to prove him wrong in the best possible way, I wouldn't have had the visit I had with him 8 days later. And he left that visit and he let me skip that pay grade level and gave me my own store. And it was one of those moments, Tom, where I honestly, if something bad happened, negative happens to me today, I think back to it because I'm like, no, that was one of the most, that was a light bulb moment for my, like just in my life. And I reflect on it often to make sure that I'm still behaving that way today. And what's crazy is 2 years ago when we were preparing to launch Ulta Beauty inside Target, that same leader was leading all of operations at Target. And so we were on the same calls together at that time. So it totally went full circle. It was incredible.
Wow, what a great story. I love it. Yeah. Funny how life has a full circle.
Seriously.
And, instead of having animosity, and you just dug deeper. And I think it is a good, packaging of your positivity and competitive spirit and channeled in the right direction. And it's funny how life does come full circle, right?
Absolutely.
Megan, you've been a great guest, and I would like everybody to give her a virtual round of applause. We also would like to formally welcome you to be a member of our Brain Trust, and you should be getting your $1 million light bulb very soon.
I love it.
So bravo, you're getting a lot of applause there. Thanks again, Megan. A
Thank
delight
you.
to spend time with you, and I'm sure we'll see you in a couple weeks at the PBA Executive Summit.
Absolutely. I'll see you there.
All right. Thanks again for being a great guest.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, so we are at our closing time, exactly at our closing time. I do want to thank some of our sponsors, which includes Lightheart Sanders, and I want to let you know that we are on next week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And I hope you have some great light bulb moments in the next week, and you take those light bulb moments and do something with them. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you very soon. Bye now.